What's going on, guys? Bengal again here for another Falcons franchise offseason. We had a very interesting season that was completely unexpected. We started off really slow, kind of 1-1, lost 1, 1-2, lost 2. We snuck into the playoffs at just 9-8, and then with Trey Lance at quarterback, make a miracle postseason run that puts us into the Super Bowl. Of course, we didn't have the result we wanted in that Super Bowl, where we were just kind of completely outclassed by Anthony Richardson, who was not a rookie, of course, only in real life, and the Colts. It was a tough game. We put up massive amounts of points in each of these playoff games, including a big-time comeback against the Cowboys. 25 points in the fourth quarter to force overtime, and without a couple of Dak Prescott interceptions, none of that would have happened. We would have been knocked out in the divisional, but we make a big-time comeback, face the Niners in the conference championship, who just suck in Madden for some reason. And then, of course, we played the Colts, and it just did not go very well at all. But we're looking to bounce back. We've got a number of interesting decisions to make with our current roster construction. Do we want to try and keep it together and maybe we limp into the playoffs again and make another run? Or do we move some pieces in hopes of becoming a better team in the future? So we have a couple of different options. Lamar Jackson wins league MVP, Mike McCarthy Coach of the Year. Lamar Jackson also wins Offensive Player of the Year, TJ Watt on the defensive side of the ball. And then your Rookies of the Year, Alex Hayden with the Vikings, the quarterback, and Dante Parker, who we saw in the Super Bowl, the superstar dev safety for the Colts. Anthony Richardson was your Super Bowl MVP, but the offseason starts now. I'll go quickly over our stats from this season. They're at the end of not only the regular season episode, but I think the end of the last episode as well, or maybe the beginning. Had a couple of nice surprises, and I think the biggest one was Trey Lance. A lot of people want us to move on from Trey Lance. I'm not really sure why. Desmond Ridder just straight up didn't really play that well, but Trey Lance had some stretches of absolutely electric play. And the only problem with him is he's only under contract for 2025. So not only does he not want to be here, he's also under contract for just one more season. So do we give a long-term contract extension to Trey Lance in this upcoming season? Or do we potentially draft his replacement? Is Desmond Ridder the guy on the roster? Or do we trade Desmond Ridder here in this very offseason? A lot of decisions to be made, and we will see what happens. It is officially time, and here we go to the re-sign players portion of the offseason. The first big hurdle, because a lot of these players I'm not really going to have a vested interest in bringing back. They either didn't play well enough, or I just don't picture them playing on our team in the future, and that certainly does not have anything to do with AJ Terrell. He's been upgraded to Superstar X Factor. He needs to be on this team going forward. He is our franchise lockdown boundary corner. He's a monster. We cannot let AJ Terrell go anywhere. Also, of course, this is being live streamed on Twitch, so if you hear me reference the chat, that's what's happening. Got a little over 2,100 people in here, so I appreciate you watching live on twitch.tv/Bengal. Link, as always, is in the description. I do stream some other games sometimes. I'm learning Counter-Strike. I'm not great. That's been interesting for people to laugh at me in the chat. But Drake London here in Falcons franchise has been very up and down for us. We're, of course, going to pick up this fifth-year option, get another year to decide on Drake London's future. I will say he played well in the playoffs. And this is one of those things where it's like, do you factor in the big sample size, or do you say, what have you done for me lately? And maybe Drake London is finally seeing that breakthrough here as he approaches an 85 overall. So we're going to pick up the fifth-year option on Drake London. DPJ got benched for Rashid Shaheed. I have no interest in Donovan Peoples-Jones, like, for any contract. And he wants big-time money for what his production was, which was not very much. Richie Grant. Oh, Richie, man. He's 27 years old, star dev. As if that would matter at 27 at this point. He won Defensive Player of the Week in the conference championship. How is that possible? He had an interception in the wild card as well. Was Richie Grant better than I remembered? He's no Jesse Bates, don't get me wrong, but maybe Richie Grant is worthy of a 2-year contract extension, something like that. Doesn't mean I'm not going to necessarily look to draft his replacement, but we have a decent amount of money. He's not terribly expensive, and he wants to be here. I'll offer him this base contract, and he's going to end up testing free agency. So unless I want to franchise tag Richie Grant for close to $20 million, probably not going to end up having Richie Grant on the team next year as he's declined to return to Atlanta. That is interesting. Trey Lance, as I mentioned, is the big one. Do we want to draft a quarterback, or do we want to extend our young quarterback that played well down the stretch? He doesn't want a ton of money, but I also don't want to give him a 4-year extension in case it doesn't work out. So I'd be more interested in a 2-year contract with an overpay, if you will, and we at least have the flexibility to get out of this contract if we want. But Trey Lance played so well, I don't really understand why people are hating on him. His performance at times was incredible, especially as a guy that we traded for at the deadline that comes in and starts and was just lighting it up. Obviously, he had a couple bad games here and there, but as for what his expectations were, they were exceeded by a mile. So we're going to offer Trey Lance a contract, and he wants to play for a new team next year. Does anyone want to be an Atlanta Falcon? The franchise tag is our entire budget, so we're going to have to pivot or look to extend him in free agency. I'd be interested to see what his options actually look like. Mike Hughes had a good stretch for us. Not too expensive either. We will give slightly more money to at least make sure that somebody plays on the team next year of the available free agents. Mike Hughes is re-signed. So the only quarterback we have on roster right now, I believe, is Desmond Ridder. Drew Dahlman is here. Drew Dahlman, he's like fringe. Do we actually need him? We have Jalen Mayfield at left guard, Chris Lindstrom at right guard, but at center, it's been Drew Dahlman. However, Riley Wheeler is somebody we drafted last year that could look to make that move to the inside at guard to center, and I'm not sure that we really need Drew Dahlman, so I think we're going to look to save money and go in a different direction. And as for the rest of these free agents, a lot of these linebackers that I liked just don't want to be here. George Elliott is not terribly expensive. He was a UDFA pickup that I was actually pretty excited about, and I do want to re-sign him. He made a big impact at times in goal line packages and on special teams. George Elliott returns. However, Tremaine Hancock will not. Jonnu Smith will not. Avery Williams will not. So we have 42 mil. DPJ is a no, and it's pretty much all for AJ Terrell. This is one player we absolutely, under no scenario can we afford to lose him. I will give him a big-time 5-year contract extension to stay in Atlanta. That is half of our free agent budget for this season, effectively, but it is well worth it. AJ Terrell actually does return. And as for the rest of these players, we are going to let them test free agency and see what happens. So I didn't really anticipate everyone saying no except for AJ Terrell. That puts us in a bit of a tough spot, but you know, we're still going to be okay mostly. Riley Wheeler, as I mentioned, is just going to move over to center. 6'4", 330. Good speed, good lead block, good impact blocking. Speed's not terrible either. And only 23 years old, a few years younger than Drew Dahlman. So a lot more room for development. Might go down in an overall point at center, as he does, down to a 73. But it just makes more sense to keep him and start him rather than paying Drew Dahlman. Jonnu Smith leaving. Receiver is definitely a need for us. Rashid Shaheed, I don't know if I need to be my receiver too. But if you remember the way our offense is structured, Kyle Pitts and Neil Madsen are pretty much on the field all the time. Pitts sometimes plays in the slot. Madsen has sometimes done that for us as well. Also has played a lot of inline tight end. So we might be fine with Rashid Shaheed, but drafting a receiver might be a good idea for us. And then you look to the defense. Jeff Okuda up to superstar dev. Richie Grant likely going to be leaving. Jeff Okuda could move back to safety. That's a possibility. He has the skills that say he could move back to safety and be okay there. Man coverage is quite high, but really good zone. Obviously, like the slot archetype kind of says that he can move back to safety pretty well. Tackle's pretty good. So that is an option. I don't know if it's my first option. We'll see how the draft goes, but it is an option. And now, when you look at linebacker, it's easy to see how well Caden Ellis has played and be like, that's the guy. He's got 20-plus TFLs and 6 sacks in each of his last 2 seasons. 3 picks in 2023, none last year, but has been maybe the best inside linebacker in the NFL. Here's the problem. He has not been upgraded to star dev once. Certainly not superstar. He's barely being upgraded at all. And now that he's 30 years old, he's regressing down to a 71 overall and getting slower and slower and slower every year. So even though Caden Ellis has been a staple of Falcons franchise so far, linebacker is becoming a big need for us very quickly. Very quickly. Caden Ellis is not somebody I think we can rely on long term. Troy Anderson is someone that continues to take steps up, but he is 26. What is his ceiling as a 72 overall player, even with star dev? He's basically a sub-package blitzer off the edge, and he's been good in that role. But if he's not running on a straight runway open to the quarterback, he's not really making much of an impact. So we have needs really at every position on defense. Corner potentially. Mike Hughes on a short-term deal. And then after that, it's just Clark Phillips, who's a slot player, could use another boundary guy. Safety certainly is a need, unless Jeff Okuda moves back, but then corner becomes an even bigger need. Defensive tackle could be a need with Grady Jarrett's contract expiring, and it's a big one. And then Frankie Louvu has not really done a whole lot. We signed him last year. He's 28. It's not a long-term deal by any means, but he hasn't really done enough to say, hey, I'm the guy long-term. Certainly not. Linebacker, potentially 2 needs there. So we have needs pretty much everywhere somehow. And then quarterback could end up being a need. Receiver, offensive line. The only thing we certainly do not need is running back. But that's the only thing. And we'll advance to free agency with about 20 mil. And we'll see how it plays. I'm interested to see who's even available. And we'll obviously make decisions based off that, as it is an interesting class, and immediately there is a name that stands out. So Tyron Smith would be a big upgrade at left tackle. I don't think that we're going to be offering him. But Jevon Holland, safety out of Oregon, of course drafted to the Miami Dolphins, is one of the better safeties in the league. I think could fit in very well to our defense, probably just move him over to strong safety. Now, it's just a lot of money to pay for a safety, and we've already allocated a lot of our salary cap to Jesse Bates, who has not played well. DJ Reader's available, Ryan Jensen, Greg Newsome. And outside of that, not really a ton of, long-term solutions at really any of these different positions. It's a lot of 29, 30-year-old players, maybe even older than that in some instances. Jed Wills could be an interesting pickup. I don't know that I would shy away from that. Richie Grant, obviously, here as well. I just think that our secondary has been a problem at the back end. A lot of that has been Jesse Bates. But getting a big-time upgrade over Richie Grant could be absolutely huge for our defense. And I just don't think there's any way I can avoid offering Jevon Holland a contract here. So he likes that we are the current league favorite to win the Super Bowl, or one of them, right? And we're going to offer Jevon Holland a big-time contract to come to Atlanta. And look who's going after him. The team we faced in the Super Bowl, the Indianapolis Colts. I hate the Colts, dude, at this point. I'm trying to think of different ways we could structure our defense as well. Because we could potentially look to transition to a 3-4. But I just don't know if we have the firepower up front for that right now. Now, Grady Jarrett is someone that I've really thought about moving a handful of times. He's 32 years old. He's under contract for just one more season. I love Grady Jarrett. His impact was not as notable or as noticeable as Kyrie Yankee, who was a rookie last year and significantly lower in overall. It might be time to try and move Grady Jarrett, free up some cap space, and get some picks in return that gives us a little bit more flexibility in the draft. Let's see what our offers are just from the jump. Darnell Mooney, Cole Hardman, Jack Campbell. Wow. Superstar dev, 25 years old, 82 overall already. That is not a bad offer from the Lions at all. Deontay Johnson, I'm not too interested in. Damian Lewis. Now, I like this offer from the Lions a ton. I really do. Here's why I would hesitate. Because in the draft, I would say one of the strengths of the actual class is the linebacker position. And it's not one that we would necessarily have to spend a super top pick on. It would not be Roy James. But when you look to day 2, day 3, that's where the value really stands out. Devon Valentine from USC is a big-time thumper up the middle. He's someone that looks really good. A pursuit, maybe not the fastest, but thumper. A pursuit, A hit power, B block shed. Definitely would fill a role, right? Rocco Reynolds, his teammate at USC. A little bit better in coverage, but also a little bit worse as a run stopper. At least, there's some things we don't know. But the true value to me comes at outside linebacker. Jose Carrington from Tennessee was someone that I saw and was immediately thrilled with the potential of drafting. A pursuit, A to C tackle in zone coverage with elite acceleration, elite agility, elite change of direction, elite speed. A play rec, A pursuit. Like, that is an awesome cover linebacker. Would be a big-time addition and obviously fill a need or two. Dante Gardner, not Gardner, but Gardner from UNC, 6'1", 244, 21 years old, with elite speed as well. Skills-wise, A hit power, A awareness, B man, B zone. A lot to like with him. And this is all down the board. Lamar Beeson from South Carolina, 6'3", 250, with great speed, elite acceleration, A play rec, B block shed. Man, there's a lot to like at outside linebacker. And we wouldn't necessarily have to spend a ton of top picks on those players. So I hesitate maybe to trade for a linebacker when it's going to be less expensive to find one in the draft. And then we could also get picks to take more shots. So I think we're going to look to trade Grady Jarrett just because I don't think he's in the long-term future for us. Only 1 year remaining on his deal, 32 years old. The time to trade him is now. And we'll see if there's a team with more than red interest on him. Not really. But we know the Lions are interested. They pick at number 10. How close do we get with Grady Jarrett? Not tremendously far, and that would move us up in the draft a lot. Give us a little bit of flexibility. Left outside linebacker obviously would not look to trade Deshaun Humphreys. Troy Anderson going into the final year of his deal could be interesting. I just want to see where this gets us. Not tremendously far. I'm sure Caden Ellis wouldn't do much either. And then quarterback. Well, they have Jared Goff, but I don't know if I want Desmond Ridder. This could be a very interesting trade. And in a second, maybe. Let's just see where we are. A 1, a 2, and a 3. That is actually interestingly close. That's not the worst idea. That's not the worst idea. We pick at 14, 31, 46, and 95. Day 1 through 2. This could be a spot where we look to trade a future pick. What would a 3 do for us? A 2 is not going to get us there either, but I'd be more comfortable moving a 2 than a future 1. Even though I think a future 1 definitely gets it done. Interesting. I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the value that I'm comfortable giving up. I think we're going to be really good next season is the thing. We just made it to the Super Bowl. We're a league favorite, and this pick is projected to be in the top 10 right now, which I don't think that's going to be where it ends up. What does a future 1 give? That's actually really close. Interesting. What about a 2 in 2027? And that gets it done. All right. That is our first big trade of the offseason. Longtime Falcon Grady Jarrett. Desmond Ridder in the final year of his deal. A first-round pick next year. A second-round pick the year after that. For a first, number 10 overall from the Lions. A second this year. A third this year. And also a first next year as well. So yes, we made the Lions better. I'm still hoping they suck next season, and that ends up being a great pick for us. We'll see. A lot of people in the chat wanted me to trade Frankie Louvu. I can't trade Frankie Louvu right now without, knowing I'm going to get a better defensive end. Because we have absolutely no depth at defensive end. None. It is Arnold Ebiketie and then essentially nothing. We've seen Zach Harrison play a lot. We've seen Ade Ogundeji play a lot. When these guys inevitably get injured, which has happened for us, we cannot not have a replacement. So we just simply can't trade Frankie Louvu right now without knowing I'm going to have a better option in the draft. And right now we don't know that. So that's pretty much where I stand there. Now, we've traded Desmond Ridder. We have nothing at quarterback. I need to see what Trey Lance is asking for. So Jared Goff is in free agency. That's why the Lions are looking for a quarterback. Trey Lance has no offers. Now, his biggest reasoning for not wanting to play in Atlanta was our scheme fit at vertical zone run. That's interesting. Now, we could look to change our offense and get him in easily. He's a scrambler type. I kept trying to upgrade his accuracy, but it never really gave me what I wanted. I really do think Trey Lance is so close to being great. The short accuracy is almost 90 plus. Throw under pressure is 80 plus. Throw on the run is 85. Like, there's so much value with Trey Lance. He's like an awesome budget quarterback because his awareness is really bringing down his overall, but everything else is that of an awesome quarterback and even the athleticism of a top-tier mobile quarterback. 88 speed, 85 change of direction, 91 acceleration, 89 agility. He is just a phenomenal Madden quarterback, and even though his overall in the game is like a 75 or 76, his overall for what we actually do in the game, on the field, might as well be an 85. We're going to see if we can change our offense. I will say I don't love Atlanta. We could go something that gets more tight ends on the field, like New England, and just run a lot of 12 personnel. That could be an interesting idea, hire a new offensive coordinator. So that could be something we look to do. That's an option. Obviously, Bijan Robinson would still be a focal point in the offense. And this actually is a better scheme fit for our entire offensive line with the exception of Matthew Bergeron. Kyle Pitts is a fit, Shaheed's a fit, Bijan Robinson's a fit, and I think Trey Lance would be a fit. That's interesting. We need some type of backup plan. Even if we draft a quarterback and there's a battle in camp, we need a backup plan. Trey Lance now wants to be here, but I don't want him on a 4-year deal, as I've said. I would be comfortable giving him a 2-year deal and then still potentially drafting a quarterback. We are the only team offering him. And I'm going to ask chat right here. Do we up our offer on Javon Holland or do we leave it as is? We're giving him a lot of money. We're giving him a lot of money. We only have $4 million right now. DJ Reader would be an awesome replacement for another Clemson defensive tackle in Grady Jarrett, but we can't afford that at all. Who is the best budget pickup? Aleem McNeil, former second-round pick of the Lions at NC State. Only one team offering him. I don't think we have the money for Aleem McNeil. We don't. We could also We could also change the contract on Trey Lance. That's a good idea. I just don't want to risk another team getting in the mix. Where can we save money right now? Caleb McGarry. Oh, yeah. That's probably someone who has to go. Caden Ellis. Oh my, see, it sucks to trade a player like that or cut him. He's a cap casualty. He's a 71 overall at 30 years old. It's just so tough. Now, there is slight interest in Caleb McGarry. We can send him away for nothing. Because the Giants need a right tackle desperately. Or so they say. Evan Neal maybe not the guy. Rams can't afford Caleb McGarry. That's another hurdle, is not a lot of teams are going to be able to afford his contract that also have the need at right tackle. That's kind of where we run into a little bit of trouble. Now, we could potentially move him to left tackle. I don't know if that would boost the interest at all. I'm sure the Giants wouldn't give me a first-round pick for Caleb McGarry, but I'd be happy landing a second, maybe even a third. And then, with the money we save from moving McGarry, we could maybe look to sign Jed Wills, which would be an upgrade. So there are some options there. We have a lot of picks right now, which is where I want to be. We have a 1, a 2, and a 3 next year. 4, 5. Missing is the 5s. No 6. I'm saying it so oddly. I don't know why that's happening. The Giants really can't afford much, is the issue I'm running into. I can't give them Caden Ellis because they can't afford Caden Ellis at all. There's pretty much nothing I can do to get rid of both of those guys in the same deal. Would I take a third for Caden or for Caleb McGarry? I probably don't want to. But I would give, I think, a 4 and Caleb McGarry to get a 2. I'd do that. And it's not quite there. I think I'd still give a 3, though, and Caleb McGarry to get a 2. And that's pretty much what it's going to end up being. Maybe a future 5 in 2027 pushes it across. And that's exactly what happens. So it's a slight trade up, but really mostly a salary cap dump to get McGarry off the team. So Caleb McGarry, our starting right tackle, a 3rd in 2025, and a 5th in 2027 to get us a 2025 second-round pick from the Giants. Now, I know it seems like Caleb McGarry is not all that good, but if you look at where he ranks in terms of right tackles, he's the 21st best in the league. Top 12% of all right tackles. So it's not like he was nothing to us. It's going to be a big replacement that we just don't have right now. We don't have it. Like, if I don't know how Rafael Burris got on the team. Might have been a practice squad player. If I have to send this guy out to play right tackle, we are going to be in rough shape. Now, the funny thing is, his pass block really isn't that much lower than what Caleb McGarry's was. That's probably why we were able to run the ball so well, as Caleb McGarry had close to 90 run block. Somehow I never even picked up on that. Okay, so we're loading up on picks, as you're probably noticing, giving us more flexibility to actually navigate in the draft. Now, Jed Wills is an option. Only one team's offering him. And he's probably going to be the best option. Dan Moore I saw as well. Not thrilled with that. L. Collins could be a decent Band-Aid, but Wills isn't as expensive, is younger, and is better. He's a scheme fit for us. I would look to give him a 5-year deal to be just our starting, maybe even left tackle, and slide Jake Matthews over. But now he's probably going to play right tackle. In fact, I want to say he played right tackle at Alabama a little bit. Maybe even a lot of it. It's a nice one. Trey Lance, we could look to lower a little bit. He might just sign anyway. But I gave him a 2-year deal and I upped the money. So I can pretty much just offer that. So it's a 2-year deal. Can I lower the money even more? It doesn't really do a whole lot. That's only a 3-bar offer. I still want to be in that 4-bar range when it's about the same financially. So it's the difference between about $1.2 million, $1.3 million, something like that. So that's going to be where I'm comfortable offering. We need some option at quarterback, even if we end up drafting one. Jordan Love, I guess, would be the fallback plan if Trey Lance decides not to. Which, he's probably just worse Trey Lance for me, is what I would say. He's about as accurate, and he's just not as athletic and has higher awareness. That's the difference. That's why Jordan Love is the same overall, or just about. Trey Lance is better in every way except for the awareness rating. So I'm fine with that. Holland. Do I extend the offer on Holland? I think I'm going to leave it as is. Is there anything at defensive tackle here? And that includes these 3-4 guys. Like Sebastian Joseph Day. Don't really want him. Michael Pierce, he's just too expensive. I need value. I need a value deal here. It's not going to be Bobby Brown. Aleem McNeil is our best case scenario here. That's the guy. If we can get Aleem McNeil, that's something. We're low on money, but that really is our best option, and I don't even think it's that close. He might go back to the Lions, though, but that's going to be what I'm doing. Those are my offers. We're targeting Javon Holland, Jedrick Wills, Trey Lance, and Aleem McNeil. Now, Holland's a coin flip. That's a 50-50. He might head to Indianapolis, and it wouldn't be the worst thing if he chose the Colts, just because we save a lot of money. There are some DBs we can take in the draft. It's not the worst thing, but he's also so good it'd be huge if he decided to sign. But we really need Wills, Lance, and those are the big two. McNeil would be nice. It's not the end-all be-all if we don't get him. And here we go. Trey Lance still mulling over offers. And my signings are Javon Holland and Jedrick Wills. Welcome to the Atlanta Falcons. Javon Holland, 6'1", 210 pounds, 25 years old, formerly of Oregon by way of Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada. I'm a big fan. Of course, drafted by the Dolphins, was great there. One of my draft crushes, and now we brought him to Atlanta Falcons franchise. 91 speed, 90 zone coverage, 83 hit power and pursuit. Great acceleration, play rec, and awareness. Block shed could be better, but one upgrade to run stopper, and that's going to be significantly better. And for right now, I think we slide him over to strong safety. Jesse Bates is just a better fit as an over-the-top guy for me. Now, he's not been great in that role, admittedly, but that's going to be how we set it up for now. Things can always change. Jed Wills is an absolutely massive pickup. He is cheaper than Caleb McGarry. He is locked down for longer than Caleb McGarry, and he is younger than Caleb McGarry. He is a better pass blocker and a significantly worse run blocker. It's basically if Caleb McGarry got flipped, that's Jed Wills. So if we're going to be throwing the football, Jed Wills is a big-time helper in doing that, but we're also a run-heavy offense. We'll see how Jed Wills ends up fitting. If we transition to the more of the spread like I think is possible, we'll see what happens. It might make sense to move Wills over to left tackle as he was and move Jake Matthews over. That's an option. So I think we've done pretty well in free agency already. I think our offseason has really started off with a bang. It'd be very sad to cut Caden Ellis. Here's the reality of the situation, is he's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And I can say with, about 100% certainty that if we cut Caden Ellis, right, we save about $7 million doing so, take on a small penalty. His cap hit for this year is a little over $8 million. No one is paying Caden Ellis this money. So if we want Caden Ellis back, we can probably get him for close to the veteran minimum. That's the reality. So Caden Ellis becomes a free agent. We save a little bit of money, but he doesn't have to leave. You see NFL teams do this all the time. you can get cut and then just re-sign for cheaper. So we still might look to offer Caden Ellis. He's been such an awesome player for us. He wants to be back, and he's significantly cheaper than he was before. So I will offer Caden Ellis not $60 million a year, although he's been worth it. How about 1.1? It is an extremely low cap hit. He's not super interested in the deal, but Caden Ellis, I don't know what your offers are going to be. You might not have no or any other option. As Trey Lance is back in Atlanta. It's a 2-year deal for the quarterback that has played so well for us, and I'm going to slap that C on his chest. Trey Lance is a captain. Does that mean he's our future franchise quarterback? I'm not sure that it does. We'll have to see. Half a season of playing great sometimes and not so well other times. We'll have to see. I'm not completely saying, he's the guy or he isn't the guy. Aleem McNeil ends up going back to the Lions, and we still have a needed defensive tackle in a huge way without Grady Jarrett. There are guys you can always draft. Let's bring in my guy Maurice Hurst. Let's get Mo Hurst in here. Such an awesome story. Dominant player at Michigan, has overcome some health concerns, and has been a nice player in the league, honestly. Currently with the Browns, got a big interception not too long ago. And I'm a big Mo Hurst guy, so we're gonna go ahead and try to bring him in. And it's at least depth at the very worst, but these guys are going to still mull over offers. Jake Meeks has elite acceleration, great agility, great change of direction, ran in the 4.6s, which is good speed, with great strength and great throw power. He's got A juke for a quarterback, which is not A juke for a running back. It's probably about 60, maybe. B medium accuracy, B throw in the run, B break sack. He is an interesting option. It'll be very interesting to see where he goes in the draft. Drew Foley, I just don't think is... Oh, very interesting. What I didn't notice about Drew Foley, that I guess you guys wouldn't have either. He's 27 years old. What, do you play minor league baseball or something? Who's going to draft a 27-year-old quarterback? He does have elite throw power and good speed. And he's so old. Mason Coons, 24, from Appalachian State, or Appalachian, as they say. He absolutely sucks. He's a little accurate. I give him that. Johnny Connor, not a whole lot to be... I mean, he's got elite throw power, to be fair to him. Dude, this is a class full of guys that can throw the ball far. Jaden Hollister just sounds like a model name. Not super interested in drafting him. People were hyping up Trevor Lawrence's brother Tucker from Hughes. He skipped the combine, you dirty dog. He's got great throw power and decent accuracy. We don't know what it is deep. It's at best C, which is not good. But yeah, quarterback's going to be an interesting option. I think we've put ourselves in a position to do it if we want to with some of these picks. And we might not be done yet. We'll see. So we'll go ahead and simulate a week here. See where that puts us. It's going to be interesting to see what we do at defensive tackle. Now, one way to look at it is we don't get pressure anyway. Why invest on our defensive line? But we might end up getting pressure if we invest on the D-line. I don't know. DJ Reader heads to Minnesota. And of the players that we've targeted, the Bengals are trying to go after Mo Hurst. And Caden Ellis still has no offers. And I don't think that's going to change. Somebody better sign. Somebody better sign. All right. Free agency 3 as we inch closer to the draft. There are a lot of interesting draftable players. Really, really interesting prospects. Tyron Smith heads to Tennessee. DJ Reader to Minnesota. Ryan Jensen goes to the Jags. Greg Newsome to the Lions. The Lions have done a lot in this offseason already. Tommy Townsend remains out there. Taron Johnson to the Cardinals. Rob Havenstein to the Cowboys. He feels like a Cowboy, to be honest. Kind of reminds me of Doug Free in a way. I think they were both Wisconsin right tackles, actually. Maybe that's just it. Doug Free might have been... Was he Wisconsin? Why do I think he was like Northern Illinois or something, or Eastern Illinois? I think he was... I don't know. Somebody in the chat will tell me. Deion Dawkins is headed to L.A. with the Rams. David Andrews to the Steelers. Zadarius Smith to the Bucks. Fullbacks and kickers, punters is sticking out there. Jared Goff going to compete with Russell Wilson. Jerome Baker to the Vikings, who've also done a lot. Elijah Moore to the Bucks. Eddie Jackson remains unsigned. Bobby Wagner also to the Titans. They're going after all the old players. Brandon Cooks to the Panthers, as is BJ Hill. Doug Free is from Northern Illinois, somebody said, but also somebody said Wisconsin. So I have no idea what to make of that. Doug Free was born in Wisconsin, but went to Northern Illinois. Oh. Maybe that's why I had like the Wisconsin idea in my head. But I did pick out Northern Illinois. All right. The other defensive tackle from that Lions draft class with Aleem McNeil is Levi Onwuzurike, who is available. Let me go after Andrew Billings. He was kind of sick at Baylor, and then I don't know what happened to him. He just lost all draft type. I think he went back for another season or played another season, which is not quite as good. Could bring Marlon Davidson back. I do need something at defensive tackle. And we got Mo Hurst and Andrew Billings and Caden Ellis. So that's going to be our free agency done and dusted. And we will advance to the free agency recap, which I pretty much went over. All of the meaningful names, for the most part, are signed. If you're curious about where Eddie Jackson's going, get a hobby. You shouldn't care about where Eddie Jackson's headed in the 2025 season of a franchise. Now, here we are in the scouting portion. At the very top of the draft, there appear to be some game-changing defensive ends. Tracy Peel from UNC is the first one. And as I've said before, UNC has a history of amazing pass rushers. Whether it's Robert Quinn, back to Julius Peppers, back to Lawrence Taylor. Tracy Peel could be the next one in line. He's got elite speed, elite change of direction. He is a very, very good player. A, finesse moves, A, awareness. I am very much considering a pass rusher at the top of the draft via a trade-up. Deion Dobbins could be another one. We couldn't get his teammate from a year ago, Dante Boston from LSU. But they're very similar. 6'4", 274, 21 years old. He's left-handed. B, block shed. A, finesse moves. A, power moves. B, tackle. With great speed. Good strength. Elite jumping. Great change of direction. Elite agility. Good acceleration. Is it worth it to move up for a pass rusher? Some of them look really good. And I am curious to know if they're true top 5 talents in the class. I will use my focus scouting on those top 2 guys. A number of good tight ends in this draft. We obviously don't need that. So who am I really interested in learning more about? Will Cox is someone I'm also curious about. He's got A, hit power, B, man, A to B tackle, B, zone coverage. And Will Cox is just a funny name to say. He's got great speed, A, pursuit, A, play rec, A, hit power. Joshua Jackson from Louisville also looks good. 23-year-old safety, but great speed. You guys know I don't typically like to draft the older guys. And 23 is not tremendously old, but it's another year of development you don't have. And that can be the difference sometimes. So even though I can't draft David Wheaton, I think a team might be getting a generational player with elite agility, elite change of direction, elite speed. Ran sub 4.3 at his pro day with a spin move, probably a juke move. I think David Wheaton's going to be a generational type player. Again, can't draft him, cannot draft him, but looks great. As does Brian Clinton, who is 6'1", 222. He's a power back with 4.42 or 4.36 speed, depending on how you slice it. He is I mean, he's a north-south runner, tell you that. But yeah, there's some really interesting players in this class. Obviously, not going to add one of these running backs to my board. But there are some interesting ones. At receiver, there's not much. Like, I wanted to really consider drafting a receiver this year. I mean, Quentin Drummond can fly, great speed, elite acceleration, fastest receiver in the class. And he's a playmaker type, D catching, C release. He probably will end up being pretty good. But is he worth a first-round pick for us? Not sure he is. Tight end we obviously don't need, but there are a couple real good-looking ones. George Cormier from Auburn, Javier Singleton from NC State. Some good tackles. We could consider that, or we could have. Not really anymore. But interior offensive line, maybe. Will Hart on day 3 with A run blocking is intriguing to me. Probably not going to get another guard in the mix, but maybe one of these guys that looks fairly well-rounded just falls into our lap and we go, that's just the best player available, and that's the direction we go. Certainly an option. And a pass protector with B run block on day 3. A impact blocking. And his last name's Nails, as he nails you to the ground. Definitely like something fun with that. But I think the real difference maker in this draft is whether or not we go for a defensive end. Jerez Forbes is another one of these guys. C block shed, A finesse move, C tackle with elite acceleration, good speed, A finesse moves, A pursuit. Would it be better to wait for him or trade up for a potential difference-making defensive end? Tyrone Winthrop from Iowa. Absolute game-wrecking machine. And when you look at Tyrone Winthrop, he absolutely made the 27-year-old veteran old man quarterback Drew Foley's life miserable when Wisconsin played Iowa. Absolutely miserable. He was a one-man wrecking crew, a force to be reckoned with. And could that be the guy? I'm not sure. He's got great speed, great acceleration, great strength, A power moves, decent block shed. Rob Flynn has A power moves. We need defensive tackle, and there are some good ones down the board. As I've mentioned a lot here, we are going to have some very interesting decisions that we're going to have to make. And those are the most fun drafts anyway. Here's a run stopper archetype with A power moves, A tackle, elite strength and acceleration, despite not being very fast. Johnny Hamilton from Mizzou kind of flew under the radar for me. Trent Jackson from Stanford is A finesse moves. It's a decent defensive tackle class down the board. And the pass rushing outside linebackers aren't great, but the ones that can play in coverage are. Now, are you ready for a fun combo? So we talked about Jose Carrington from Tennessee, right? 6'2", 221, 21 years old. Elite acceleration, elite agility, elite change of direction, elite speed. A pursuit, A play rec. Well, what if I told you that Jose Carrington is not the only member of his family in this draft? Look to corner for his brother Jason Carrington of Michigan State, 6'4", 206 pounds, is a year older, but at 6'4", ran in the 4.3s, great speed, great acceleration, elite jumping, B block shedding, B man coverage. Jason Carrington could be a guy to look out for. Matt Jackson from Ohio, 6'2", man-to-man archetype with B zone coverage, just 21 years old, solid speed, and at this point in the draft, could be somebody to look out for. A-man coverage from Terrence Banks. Looks fun. A-man, A-press. He is really slow. Now, he did run in the 4.4s at his pro day, apparently, but his speed is poor, according to the scouting scales, which is as low as it can possibly go. But A-man, A-press, A-tackle is interesting, and that's a day 3 player. Could be somebody to look out for, I guess. And then the safeties look good. At this point, with safety locked up for us, we're looking at slot corner for all of these guys. If we were to draft a safety, Levine, Green, Westerman, Levine, Green, potato, tomato, whatever. Trevor Lindsay, Joel Lawrence. A lot of LSU safeties and Auburn safeties in this class. And Clemson. We'd be looking at slot corner, which is potentially a need for us. I do like the look of Will Cox, but he's a bit older. Travis Baptiste is fun. Dean Savage is a big-time name. Zach Woody is a big-time name in other ways. But, all right. It is time for the draft. Tracy Peele is expected to be the first overall pick out of UNC. And then it goes Brian Tennant from Wisconsin, Tyrone Winthrop from Iowa, Felix Borden, defensive tackle from Washington, is going to be a top 10 player. He looks sick. Antoine Taylor. Dion Dobbins expected to drop to 6. So that's interesting. Jose Carrington, expected to be our pick at number 10, around 2 to 3 projection. I doubt it. I doubt it. Don't think we'd be drafting him there. Thurman Mason. These are just guys that I scouted that are high on my board. That they're like, this is who they're going to draft. I'm not going to draft them. Javier Singleton's fun. Clinton. Now, where's the running back supposed to go? That's what I'm curious about. Did I pass him? I did not pass him. David Wheaton's supposed to go to the Bears at 13. That'll be interesting. But I don't think I'm going to trade up to 1. So Tracy Peele is out of the question. It's going to be Dion Dobbins, who we're going to look at. For sure. We can know if he's a top 5 talent or not, which I think is a big-time difference maker. A lot of these linebackers down the board, I just kind of feel like taking a shot on anyway. So who are we really going to look to find out more about here? What is the best allocation of this? Maybe Carrington from Michigan State, the corner. A run stopper with B zone coverage is interesting. Dante Gardner from North Carolina. Jake Meeks, again, we know about. We're not going to learn more about him through scouting. He's a player you take a chance on, not going to be a polished product. Probably won't be very good, but we'll see. I think the other player, Johnny Hamilton's interesting. He's 382? What in the world? 6'1", 382. Holy. That's going to be somebody we can't forget about. Tell you what, who do we have? We have Dobbins, Carrington. Let me make a change. I'll at least look at the receiver. He's got big-time speed. Could end up being very good. That's just kind of the way it works in Madden 24. Scouting is really tough for receivers because oftentimes they'll have bad catching and you're just like, they're bad. But they might not be bad. They might just be good at other things. And D-catching's a 70-ish, so it's not actually the end of the world. But it'll be interesting to see how some of these players end up looking. We're going to look at Jason Carrington, Quentin Drummond, the receiver, and Dion Dobbins from LSU. So 2 LSU players, 1 on each side of the ball. And we are ready for the draft. Here we go. A lot of yapping to get to this point. Welcome to the channel. But here we are. We pick at number 10 overall. Texans on the board at number 1. Let's see our scouting progress before we jump in. So Dion Dobbins is not a top 5 talent in the draft. The earliest he can be is the 6th ranked player. And that's exactly where he's expected to go, funnily enough. Back to our favorites. Rashawn Fleming we know about. Where's the corner? Jason Carrington ends up having B zone coverage. That is very, very good for his draft stock. And then the last player is the receiver. Quentin Drummond, interestingly enough, has B catch and traffic, B deep route running. We already know he's a great athlete. F medium route running with A spectacular catch, and C short route running. This is one of the weirder looking players I've probably ever seen. Is this the Odell Beckham Jr. build? Is that what I'm looking at? Odell not quite as fast, of course, but could still take a slant to the house. And also probably would have better than F medium route running. Very interesting. Okay. All right, we'll see what the Texans do at number 1. As they take, I'm sure who they're expected to take. It is Tracy Peele from UNC. Is he the next great pass rusher from North Carolina the Tar Heels have had? Robert Quinn, Julius Peppers, Lawrence Taylor, and now Tracy Peele goes at number 1 overall. Julius Peppers was a top pick. Robert Quinn, I believe, was a first rounder. Lawrence Taylor was a very high pick in the early 80s. Now Tracy Peele is the top player off the board in 2025. A game wrecker. As quarterback Edward Sloan would figure out, many of you might remember him, Tracy Peele made his life a living hell. Bucks on the clock at number 2. They go with Brian Tennant, another pass rusher off the board. You know, he's going to be pretty reminiscent of J.J. Watt when you watch him, but I can promise you they are very different players. J.J. Watt was about 290 pounds, whereas Brian Tennant is about 245 pounds. More of an edge rusher, but Wisconsin used him sliding inside at times with Herbig off the edge. So they had speed on speed on speed, and Brian Tennant also has an interesting combination of power as well. So Tennant, is he worth the number 2 overall pick? I think the Bucks want J.J. Watt. We'll see if they get him or something else entirely. Texans back on the clock at number 3 after picking at number 1. And they go with another pass rusher. It is 3 out of the first 3, all pass rushers. And Thurman Mason is actually somebody that we checked out very early on in the year. Thurman Mason from Penn State, we know, is a true round 2 to 3 talent that is going here at number 3 overall. Have the Texans reached, or have they just got a piece to develop alongside Will Anderson Jr.? That'll be an interesting question to find out if it gets answered in the near future. Penn State also had a player go very high last year. Alex Gayton was a first-round pick. I believe the Steelers took him. Raiders on the clock at number 4. Do they make a typical Raider pick, or do they go with an absolute stud? It is Felix Borden from Washington, and there's going to be nothing boring about Borden when you watch him play. He is absolutely electric on the inside, great pass rusher, and when you look for a defensive tackle in the draft, there are really 2 types. There's the guy that can get after the QB. That's rare. And then there's the guy that can stop the run. It's pretty common. Obviously, when they can do it at a super elite level, that's a little bit more valuable. But Borden might be a guy that can do both. And he is especially adept at getting after the quarterback, whether it's pushing the pocket or using his hands to just rush into the backfield. Could be an interesting player. Broncos on the board at number 5. They got Jared Goff, and now they got him some protection. It's the first non-pass rusher off the board. This is the guy that stops them. Antoine Taylor from Texas Tech, who protected quarterback Jake Meeks in this very draft. We see him on the move here. Is the pick at number 5. You can see him there at left tackle, number 76. Just letting Jake Meeks do his thing. And when you have a quarterback that's a scrambler, what does that mean for the offensive line? It's really tough to sustain your blocks and not hold. And Antoine Taylor is somebody that never held at Texas Tech. Commanders on the clock at number 6. I think we might take a look at a potential trade-up from number 10. I think that could be an interesting option for us. We pick at 10, 14, and 31. And then 42, 46, 52. So that is 3 picks inside the first We'll extend that to 7 picks inside the top 75. What do the Commanders want for this pick? So we'd have to move up a few spots in here. They want a quarterback, right guard, corner, and left tackle. Well, we don't have a tackle to give you. Could this be a spot where we move a corner if we were to draft one? Just re-signed Mike Hughes. Clark Phillips is going to be the more valuable player. I'm not sure what his future is with the team. Would they take Mike Hughes? They do. Now, Mike Hughes is a decently high overall. Commanders are going to need to extend him. This is a big-time trade for us and a questionable move for the Commanders, who are desperately trying to establish their secondary. They trade back only a couple spots to 10 as we move up to number 6, where we are going to take a pass rusher. We know he's a round 1 talent. We know he's not probably a top 5 player in the class, but think about it this way. If he is a 76 overall and the number 3 player in the class is a 76 overall, they can't all say top 5. There can't be 10 or 15 top 10 players or top 5 players in the draft. So with Frankie Louvu being a big question mark for us, we are going to look to do what we couldn't do last year, which is take an LSU pass rusher that could be the difference maker. We missed out on Dante Boston a year ago. We're not going to have the same thing happen with Dion Dobbins. Welcome to the Falcons, Dion Dobbins. 85 strength, 84 speed, 84 jumping, 83 acceleration, 84 agility. The question mark with him, because we know he's good, but is he going to be great? He's well-rounded, but is he ever going to be elite? That's the big-time question with Dion Dobbins. But we know he is a playmaker. He's only 21 years old, and the sky is the limit for the LSU pass rusher. He waited his time, sat behind Dante Boston, and then became his replacement and dominated. Maybe to the same level, maybe even higher. The play strength, off the charts. The hustle, the determination, unbelievable. And you'll see at the end of this highlight film here, Dion Dobbins does something so unbelievable that you simply cannot believe someone at 6'4", 274 pounds is capable of doing what he did, moving the way he does, and playing with as much heart as he does. Cody Bailey never even saw what hit him. That's the 6'4", 274-pound defensive end running with the top overall offensive playmaker in this draft, Auburn's George Cormier. Can you believe it? Cody Bailey couldn't. Dion Dobbins, welcome to the Falcons. Rams on the clock at number 7. They go with the first defensive back off the board. It is UNC's LeAnthony Sims, and they obviously had a great year. You know, we saw the first overall pick come from UNC. And now, the 5'9" safety, LeAnthony Sims, is headed to the Rams. They've done well with UNC players in the past. Robert Quinn being one of them. He was a Ram. Remember that? LeAnthony Sims is a very different type of player. A lot smaller, but plays with a lot of heart. Big hit over the middle. He's a big hitter. Maybe he has to work on the hands. That's why he's playing defense. But a big-time playmaker nonetheless. Steelers on the clock at number 8. They go with Pete McClain. Second tackle off the board, this one on the right side out of USC. Cardinals at 9. Go with George Cormier. We just set it up. We just talked about him. He is the first non-offensive lineman on that side of the ball to go off the board. And we just saw our top draft pick run with him. And he's a vertical threat tight end. Kyler gets a big-time weapon, but if Dion Dobbins can cover him, who else can? Something you have to think about. George Cormier could be a big-time weapon, or he might be the the most overdrafted tight end since, oh, no, not Kyle Pitts. Don't say it. George Cormier ends up going in the top 10. Commanders, after the trade down, on the clock. And they go with the potentially generational David Wheaton from Washington, as David Wheaton may not even think he's moving very far. He's like, I play at UW, I play at Washington. The Washington Commanders just drafted me? That's sweet, I don't even have to move. Well, David, he might be fast as ever, but not the sharpest tool in the shed, I'll tell you that much. But David Wheaton has electric speed. Ran 4.31 at the combine. Electronic timed. 4.29, even faster, hand timed at his pro day. He's got one of the best spin moves you'll ever see. He's as fast as you'll ever see. He is a blur, and he is now playing for the Washington Commanders. Simply no one with enough speed to keep up with him. What a trade down for the Washington Commanders. They bolster their secondary, and then they get maybe the best overall offensive weapon in the entire draft. And that puts the Seahawks on the clock. One pick before they could bring David Wheaton actually home to Washington, to the Seattle area, and they go with Tyrone Winthrop. This was somebody that was really high on my board. And when I was watching these highlights of these players, trying to, familiarize myself with the class, Tyrone Winthrop is somebody who stood out in a big way. Winthrop made sure Drew Foley had a very bad day. Safety, sack number 2. He had 4 in this game. Winthrop was just simply unstoppable. And the 27-year-old veteran quarterback, Drew Foley, was questioning his life decisions on if he wanted to even continue playing football after Winthrop got to him over and over and over and over and over again. 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks. It's Big Ten football, baby. Winthrop goes to Seattle. And the Jags are on the clock at number 12. I am going to give the Jags a phone call. I'm going to give the Jags a phone call. I got a couple questions to ask General Manager Trent Baalke. And the first question is this. How much would it cost to trade up 2 spots? That's my question. Would it cost a 4? Would it cost a 7? Would it cost 2 7s to move up 2 spots? It doesn't. We are going to offer a 4 in exchange for a 4 next year. That could be a good pick swap. Not quite. How about a 7 in there? Not quite as well. I'll tell you what, I would take a future 5. I would take a future 5. Don't really want to give away this 4th round pick, but at least we're going to get something back. And we'll add in the 7th. It's just not being accepted. Can you be a little bit more agreeable, Trent? What about another 7th? Still no. What about a 7th in 2027? Finally accepted. We're trading up. We're jumping 1 team. Don't bother me. Finally, we move up. And here we are at number 12. So the question is, who did we trade up for? Is it the running back, Brian Clinton from Washington State? He's got great speed. Ran 4.36 at his pro day as a power back. No, it's not. It's not Brian Clinton. Do we go with a tackle? Do we go with another pass rusher? Or do we go with Will Cox? He's only 5'9", but we have a need at slot. A hit power. B man. A to B tackle. B zone coverage. He's got great speed. A hit power. A pursuit. A play rec. B man. B zone. A awareness. C block shed. Well, it's not him either. It's going to be Quentin Drummond from LSU. We need a playmaker at receiver, and we're going to look to find one. B catching traffic. Only D catching, but B deep route running, C release, elite acceleration, great agility, great speed, ran 4.25 at his pro day. And not only that, he's got a spectacular catch, so he can climb the ladder and go up and get it. Is Drake London the guy? Rashid Shaheed's just a deep threat. We might need somebody that can actually play, in the middle of the field, in the slot, that isn't Kyle Pitts. Quentin Drummond, welcome to Atlanta. 94 speed, 98 acceleration, with 93 agility, 91 change of direction, and 90 jumping. And it is abundantly apparent when you watch him. He is a monster playmaker that will not be tackled in the open field and will run by anybody else that has an angle. Quentin Drummond could be a future superstar type player and a big time addition of speed in the offense that we only had from Rashid Shaheed. That was it. And now, Quentin Drummond could be the next. LSU receivers, can you ever go wrong? Yep, Ruben Randall, that's a good point, me. Other than that, Jarvis Landry he caught the ball a lot. Odell Beckham Jr. was obviously incredibly dynamic. And then you get to the more recent guys. Terrace Marshall's whatever, but Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and now Quentin Drummond. I didn't even talk about Dwayne Bowe. I didn't even talk about... I'm missing somebody. Who's the other LSU receiver I'm missing? Doesn't matter. We got Quentin Drummond now. That's the guy. And then we don't pick again until 31. Devery Henderson, I guess, was a guy. That's true. Early Doucette. I forgot about him. And Pando in the chat saying these even has the EAUX. Big LSU guy. Keelan Terry's very good. He's very good. Manny Gregory, I also like. George Buchanan, I also like. Yeah, Keishon Boutte was really good at LSU, and then not so much the last season. This is a really good-looking corner. A-press, A-zone, really good athletically. At 6'3". I'm not quite sure how we're going to play this. Malachi Dupree had a stretch at LSU. He sure did. That's true. That is true. Bears at number 13. Go with Miles Ross from Clemson. So we know about Miles Murphy. He took the place of Miles Murphy. It's a different Miles. Miles Ross. Also stole Miles Murphy's 98 and wreaked havoc on Drake May. Couldn't always get that sack registered, but forced a ton of early throws, pressures, and finally was able to get to the future top 5 pick in the draft, if not number 1. We'll have to see. Drake May. Jags, after the trade back at number 14, go with Jerez Forbes from Auburn. They may have just drafted him at number 12 anyway, but they end up not. They wait, and they get a really, really good player as a result. We talked about LSU not too long ago, and these were the guys trying to stop Quentin Drummond, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas. Jerez Forbes was a problem for Jaden Daniels in this one. A lot of speed, and got to Jaden Daniels a lot. Jags may finally get their big-time pass rusher. I think Josh Allen signed elsewhere in free agency. Is that true? I want to say that's true. I don't actually remember. But, in the game. Obviously, it's a little bit tougher to remember these things. But we'll see. Jets at number 15 go Rashawn Fleming from Miami. One of the players we looked at pretty early on in the process. Was not too enamored with him. Only a round 2 to 3 true talent. And just not all that interested. You like how all these highlights, by the way, are just sacking Drake May? Tough time to be Drake May. Except he's about to make so much money. I'm sure he's going to be cool with it. Panthers at number 16. Go with Keelan Terry from Stanford. That was somebody I wanted. I'm gonna break the fourth wall here a little bit. That was somebody I wanted. I didn't know that we were going to be in a position to trade up for him. This was, if we didn't trade up for Quentin Drummond, Keelan Terry was going to be the guy probably. And, I mean, he's good. Now, couldn't necessarily finish every play, but he had a great teammate who did it. Trent Jackson and Keelan Terry were a monstrous duo on the interior defensive line for Stanford, but we know that's a smart school. They can't actually play football. Or can they? I don't know. Titans at 17. Go with Xavier Jordan from Cal. Lame. All right, I don't care about him. Clyde Levine from Auburn's off the board next. I got to get my hair like him. I got to figure that out. That's got to be something I look into. If anyone knows any good barbers in the general Texas area, not like that's a 14-hour long drive from state side to other state side. But yeah, Clyde Levine is the 18th pick here to the Dolphins, looking to replace Javon Holland. Packers at 19. Packers at 19, thank you. Go with Manny Gregory from Oregon. Now, a lot of really good defensive tackles in this class, as we talked about. And I don't know. Julian Meekins from Texas. Hook him, of course. I got to throw it up. 6'1", 360. Now, he's just kind of in the way, is the review. Elite strength, though. Doesn't do anything else. He's a nose tackle. However, Johnny Hamilton at 382 has A power moves. Also elite strength, but elite acceleration as well. 46 reps. I mean, that's probably the guy that you're looking for if you're going to take a big defensive tackle. Giants go with Alonzo Westbrook. Defensive tackles flying off the board. Saints at 21 go with Will Cox from FSU. I kind of teased that a little bit. Didn't end up going that direction, obviously, which, I mean, y'all should have known, to be honest. He's 5'9" and 23 years old. You're going to take somebody as old as 23? I mean, you got to retire at that point. Hang up the cleats. Now, I am 25 in real life, but that's not relevant. 23 is old. You're one hit away from a retirement home, let's be honest. Bills at 22. Go with Rob Flynn from Florida. Rob Flynn was another interesting edge rusher. Kind of flew under the radar a little bit just because there were other guys. Jerez Forbes, obviously. Deion Dobbins, who we took. Tracy Peel. And you'd think it'd be tough to fly under the radar, you know, playing in the SEC. But, you know, it's not difficult to pick off Joe Milton, so we can't give him too much credit on that. Joe Milton can, to be fair, throw the ball over the mountains. Rob Flynn headed to Buffalo. They've kept taking shots on defensive ends in real life. Not necessarily that high. It seems like AJ Epineza is really developing into being a nice player. Boogie Basham didn't really work out too well. I'm not really sure how Bills fans feel about Gregory Rousseau. I don't know that he's ever going to be elite. Nice player, though, I think. Bengals at 23 go David Hudick. I got to be careful with how I pronounce that. David Hudick from Clemson. Why is that going to make me laugh? That is so dumb. But one of the top tackles in the draft, 6'7", big-time pass rusher. And when you're blocking someone that's about, 100 pounds and 5 inches smaller than you, it's not difficult. So is David Hudick worthy of a first-round pick? I don't know. Chargers go Grant Polk out of UCLA, keeping him local. UCLA to LA with the Chargers, who play in... Why am I blanking? All I can think of is Annapolis, Maryland. That's like not even close. They play in... What is the city in LA? I cannot believe I can't think of it. I thought I'm the GeoGuessr guy. How can I not think of this? Inglewood. Fuck. Eagles at 25. Go Tyler Kahn from Michigan. Maybe a relative of AJ Kahn? I don't know. Let's change the subject. Man, what a pickup. What a pickup for the Eagles. Get a big-time left tackle. Could be a potential Lane Johnson replacement on the other side. Maybe Jordan Mailata's not their guy long-term. I don't know. Patriots at 26. Go Hayden Woodard. Tackles flying off the board in this first round. Ravens take Brian Clinton from Washington State. He was somebody we hyped up a little bit. Obviously was not going to be somebody that we drafted. We have Bijan Robinson. It's just not something we were really ever thinking about. But Brian Clinton at 6'1", over 220 pounds. 220 pounds would be pretty large for a running back. 220 pounds. And just searches for contact routinely, but also has the speed to churn out long runs routinely. So you might have like the best of both worlds type combination. He's obviously not as fast as Wheaton, who we saw go to the Commanders at 10, but still has electric speed with a lot more power. So depending on what type of offense you want to run, Brian Clinton, not a bad get for the Ravens. Still a lot of speed in that offense. Cowboys at 28. Go with Zach Porter. Another tackle off the board and another one to the NFC East following the Eagles. Zach Porter from Oregon is the pick. At 29, it's the first interior offensive lineman, center Kevin Ferguson from Oklahoma. Potentially going to team up with Oklahoma left tackle Trent Williams. And the final pick before we pick at 31 is the Kansas City Chiefs, who were upset by the Colts in the AFC Championship, who ended up making the Super Bowl and beating us. So I got beef with the Chiefs. Chief beef, because maybe we would have won the Super Bowl if we played the Chiefs and not the Colts. The Chiefs in front of us go with Dell Randolph from A&M. May not be the next Von Miller, but is the pick for Kansas City. And that brings us onto the clock at number 31 here in the first round. We've done a lot here. Already. But this is not a pick I want to mess up. And I don't know how we're going to play this. So everyone's begging me to take Jake Meeks. I don't know where you think we are in the draft that he's even potentially in play at this point. Wise up. All right? Get it together. He's not the pick at 31. Joshua Jackson's one of these guys that I wanted to know more about. I think if he wasn't 23, he would have been a focus player. I think he's going to be good. I just don't know what his zone coverage is, and that scares me a little bit. I really am scared about that. George Buchanan is somebody I like. But I think if we're taking a corner, I do prefer Jason Carrington. And I'm not sure there's anyone here at 31 that makes sense for me to take. So potentially a slight trade down could be in play. Is that something we could look into? It certainly could be. Ooh. Commanders offering us a first round pick next year. I don't know if I want that. I'm looking, I think, for a second round pick this year, and then maybe something else. Now, okay. Here's the big time question. Is a second round pick in this draft more valuable to me than a first round pick next year? It really might be. Because there are a lot of good players in this draft that I like. And, we certainly are not going to be able to get all of them. Trenton Jackson's still available, who I like. A lot of guards who I'm just probably not considering at this point. Jake Meeks, who everybody wants. A bunch of linebackers who I like. What's more valuable to us here? And it is tough to trade for second round picks, by the way. It is tough. So we pick at 42, 46, 52. So 4 more picks potentially. Do I want to reach? It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope to reach or trade down. Broncos at 37. Feels like a good spot. Could I get 37 and 69 for 31? I don't think so, but I would do this like pretty easily. It's just not quite there. And we know we're probably taking a corner. I don't really want to trade Clark Phillips, but he also just never plays. And we just traded Mike Hughes. Is this the Luvu spot? Now that I acquired Dion Dobbins? They can't afford him, is the difference. Okay, what if... Does anyone want Frankie Luvu is, I think, where we start. Final year of his deal. Who wants Frankie Luvu? Panthers, maybe. In our division. Cardinals, maybe. They need a right end. They pick at 41. That's a good pick. And 63. We might be able to work something out here. I'm going to move Frankie Luvu to right end. See if we can entice the Cardinals a little bit more. Where am I looking to trade Luvu? Was it Arizona? I think it's Arizona. Now, are the Cardinals going to be actually interested in him? I hope so. That would be nice. Not Kyler Murray. People wanted me to trade for Kyler last year. Didn't end up happening. So 3 second-round picks is, of course, not going to go through. Just want to see where we are on that. Because I would very comfortably trade back down from 31. This probably won't go through either, but it is actually pretty close. Okay, this is a good trade for us, really. 41, 63, and a 2. Could I potentially... I don't really want to trade our third, is the thing. I'd trade a 4 next year. So then we'd move up in the draft next year, move back in the draft this year, trade Frankie Luvu and pick up a second. That's not going through. Be agreeable. What about a third next year? That's going to end up being accepted. So Frankie Luvu, number 31, gives us a second this year from the Cardinals, 41 or so. Another second from the Cardinals, definitely further back, and then a third next year. So Frankie Luvu is gone. We signed him last year. Didn't really end up making much of an impact. We've now replaced him in this draft. To me, it just didn't really make sense to hold on to him. And the Cardinals jump up at number 31. And use that to take Joshua Jackson from Louisville. I'm really interested in what he ends up looking like. This is a player I talked about a little bit that I think could end up being quite good. And I'm not sure if you guys remember Lions franchise. There was a draft class that featured 2 top-tier safeties, I want to say. Maybe even 3. No, it was definitely 3. Because you had the safety from Florida State, who ended up being a monster. You had the safety that we took from Oregon, Glenn Gore. I think this was all the same draft class. And then I think you had the undersized safety from Louisville that also looks like maybe Joshua Jackson a little bit. So I am interested to see what he ends up looking like. We got to remember, we're going to check. And it's back-to-back Louisville players to close out the first round. Certainly not expecting that, as Bobby Bernard heads to the Colts. No interest in Jonathan Taylor. They make the Super Bowl. They wanted a vanity pick, and I guess they got one. Oh yeah, Igor was Giants franchise. Was the Steelers safety? Maybe it was Giants franchise then. Yeah, because Glenn Gore, of course, was Giants franchise, obviously. I think because it was the Steelers safety who went to Florida State. I remember that for a fact. I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. It's tough to keep up with the Bengals cinematic universe at times. First pick of the second round is a safety, Tyreek Westerman from Clemson. Clemson has a lot of DBs in this class. Tyreek Westerman played over the top mainly for Clemson. You're going to see another safety in this class. You're going to see a nickel player. Yeah, Bryson Hendricks was the guy from Florida State that went to the Steelers. So I think there was another safety in the class from Louisville in that same class. I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, Bryson Hendricks is the guy that the Steelers end up drafting from Florida State. I think Glenn Gore from Oregon was the same class, and I think there was there was a Louisville safety in that. Dion Meredith from Boise State goes to the Bucks. Browns take Sheldon Geathers, a tackle from Alabama, to replace Jedrick Wills. Raiders go with Mike Gray, a guard out of Ohio State. I've not seen a lot of guards go off the board. That might, in fact, be the first one. And there goes George Buchanan, corner out of TCU, 6'3", and certainly one of the best corners in the entire class. You can't typically find that size at the cornerback position, especially not with that speed. He's a better zone player than a man player, and quite significantly, in fact. So it would have, in fact, made a lot of sense for our team, but we have been transitioning to a lot of man as well. So that was kind of the reason I didn't really take him at 31 and look to move back. But George Buchanan is a good player, and the Denver Broncos defense gets better and better and better. They brought in Jared Goff on offense, obviously making a move. We'll see if it ends up being very good. You can see him just reading the quarterback here. Awesome zone eyes and makes a play on the football. Commanders at number 6. Go with Glenn Leslie, defensive end from Washington State. Washington State just produces draft picks in Madden franchise. It's unbelievable how many they get. Rams go with Jason Staley. To me, that was probably the top overall guard in the class. He definitely looked good. I mean, it's tough to say, oh, this guy's going to be a game changer for the Rams. He's a second-round guard, but definitely looked to be a pretty good player. And, I mean, that might help the Rams run the football a little more effectively. Steelers, round 2, pick 8. Go with Javier Singleton from NC State. I was wondering when he would go off the board. He was a projected first-round pick in the final mock draft. And he's a big-time playmaker at the position. Like, I don't know that he's quite as good as George Cormier, the first tight end off the board out of Auburn. But Javier Singleton is really, really good and has A, run blocking. So, there's a lot to like. Big-time receiver, and I guess Muth time is done in Pittsburgh. Javier Singleton has been added to the mix. Although maybe it doesn't mean that, because we have Kyle Pitts and we took a tight end last year, and Neil Madsen's been a very solid player for us. As we are back on the clock, we have 3 picks out of these next 6, including back-to-back at number 9 and 10. We will be taking both of them. And as I went pick by pick by pick, the one player that I consistently felt worried about being drafted in front of me was the corner Jason Carrington from Michigan State. And that's how I know he's the pick. If I'm thinking about it and being like, man, we cannot afford to let this guy go off the board, we know we got to take him. Jason Carrington, brother of Jose Carrington, Tennessee linebacker that we might look to draft later. We'll have to see what happens. 22 years old, 6'4", 206 pounds, and B-man, B-press, B-zone. Great acceleration, great speed, elite jumping, and a potential monster in our secondary with great coverage, good block shed. I think he's going to be a really nice addition. You can't find that height and speed combination. And it seems like it could end up being quite a nice pick for us, as Jason Carrington does have in dev 93 speed and acceleration, 85 agility, 90 change of direction, and 92 jumping. You know, you probably didn't expect corner as one of the top picks that we look for in this draft, but you can see at that size and with that speed, he basically is out there playing receiver at times. You know, we got another Michigan State player in the mix, and he's just towering over the receiver, which is so atypical of a corner. He's 6'4", and he looks like the receiver on any given play, but you can see he's playing defense for a reason. Not always able to come down with the football, despite being in phenomenal position, running the route for the receiver. He is playing defense for a reason. But Jason Carrington, I think, is going to be a really nice addition to our team. And, as the chat has pointed out, which is certainly going to jinx us, we have had no normal development players thus far, which is a little bit different than where we were last year. And just going down the board here, I think I might take the brothers back-to-back. That's exactly what's about to happen. Back-to-back picks. We got Jason Carrington, and now we're going to take his brother, Jose Carrington from Tennessee. Elite acceleration, agility, change of direction, and speed. He's a little bit smaller than his brother, weighs a little bit more, and is a year younger. But they will be reunited in Atlanta. Jose Carrington, welcome to the Falcons. 87 speed, 90 acceleration, and agility. And we know what he can do on the field. You look at these top skills, A play rec, A pursuit. And, I mean, there's a reason he's declaring early, and his brother is not. He's a more polished product at a younger age. He flies around the field. He makes plays. He brings hat. Jose Carrington looks like maybe a little bit of a reach on the draft boards, but I hope we see with on-field play that it's not a reach at all. We lose Caden Ellis, even though we bring him back. We cannot rely on him long-term, and now we've potentially found a replacement. This could also let Deshaun Humphreys move to inside linebacker. Jose Carrington gives us a ton of flexibility. And now the Seahawks pick at number 11. They go with Dante Matthews. That's only the second wide receiver off the board in this draft. It was not a very strong receiver class. Not a very strong quarterback class either. But Dante Matthews is a bit of a playmaker. I mean, he's the second receiver off the board for a reason. Top 50 pick. Could end up being a nice pickup for Seattle that are constantly looking to bolster that receiving core. You know, you picture DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. You think they don't really need anything else. But Dante Matthews could be very good after the catch, and maybe your Tyler Lockett replacement long term. That's what they're going for. Whether or not they actually get that, we will see. Jags on the clock. Round 2, pick 12. We've made some trades with them in this draft. Not going to do it here, as they go with one of, I believe, 2 Auburn safeties that you might see in this draft. Tyree Green from Auburn is off the board. He is not super impressive to me. He actually gets beat by Malik Neighbors, but is pretty much trying to hype himself up like he made a play. Can't really catch the football, nearly caught off the tip. I'm not super impressed with him. He's got good skills in coverage, but does he have that X factor? You know what I mean? Can't seem to come down with anything. Is that just Jaden Daniels making bad plays, or is it Tyree Green making good plays? I don't know. Bears at number 13. Go with Jalen Caldwell, a defensive end from West Virginia. And we are on the clock at number 14 in this round. Now, there have still been no quarterbacks drafted, which is incredibly interesting. And I'm not sure which direction we should go. This could, in fact, be a trade down spot. Haven't really done it very much in this draft, but it is an option. I do like Matt Jackson, by the way, from Ohio. I thought there was a chance we would draft him. I think it becomes a little bit less likely now that we got, Jason Carrington, but it's still in play. Derek Kellum is another good player. 5'10", 211, 22 years old. Good speed, elite agility, great acceleration. B-man, A to B catching is nice. A to B zone coverage. I think he's going to end up being a steal. I just don't know if he's going to be a steal for us. We're trying to build our team. It isn't just about taking BPA. And there are a lot of players I still want in this class. It's a good safety class. There are a lot of safeties that I like. But with Javon Holland, it just becomes less of a need. And I think this just does become a trade down spot. Maybe if we can get like a third round pick this year and a future second or third, it's probably going to be a future third, I'd feel pretty good about that. I mean, we do have quite a few picks next year. I'd like a second in 2027 if possible. That'd be pretty nice. Why not the Bears? A second in 2027 and a third in 2026 for number 46 is accepted. So, yes, we have to wait 2 years to get our second round pick back, essentially, but we do get a third next year. So, a pretty nice trade for us when there was no one at this spot that I was really too strongly considering. As the Bears go back-to-back, it's a linebacker. First inside linebacker off the board, Roy James from Virginia. Jets go with Joel Lawrence from LSU. There were so many LSU DBs in this class. And, I mean, Joel Lawrence was one of them. He's listed at free safety, played corner at LSU. He's just somebody that, because he's only 5'9", you expect to move to the slot at the next level. But you can see the aggression is there. He's someone that was able to fly all around the field making plays at different levels. This is just one of those guys that drops in the draft because of his size that ends up being a better pro than you expect. And here the Bears are up again. And they go with Trey Carroll, a running back out of Florida. Have the Bears drafted multiple running backs? I don't know if they have. They definitely may have. I don't remember. Titans go with J.D. Kilmer, a guard from Washington. The Dolphins take Mitch McCord, tight end from West Virginia. The Packers in front of us take Drew Foley, quarterback from Wisconsin. And the first quarterback domino has officially fallen. It's the 27-year-old quarterback to replace Jordan Love. Imagine that. Your rookie quarterback has his contract expire, after the length of the contract, and you replace him with a player that is currently actively older. That's the 27-year-old Drew Foley from Wisconsin. We said he was reevaluating life decisions after not only playing Big Ten football as a quarterback, but facing Tyrone Winthrop in this game. But Drew Foley can sling it a little bit. Not too mobile, but as a big-time arm, you're talking about a former minor league baseball player as a pitcher. That's why he's a little bit older. Comes back to college with that eligibility, makes some big-time plays like Hayden Hurst, and ends up being the first quarterback drafted here in 2025. That puts us on the clock here, round 2, pick 20. And we will take a shot on Jake Meeks from Texas Tech. He's 5'11", 209, just 21 years old. Questionable accuracy. And that doesn't mean bad. It means we don't know. It's probably not great short. Might be okay. It's better than okay deep. But he's got elite acceleration, great agility, great change of direction, great jumping, good speed, great strength, great throw power. And this is the type of guy you take a shot on and try to develop them long term. Jake Meeks out of Texas Tech. Jake football, like Johnny football? Maybe so. Hidden development. 92 throw power, 91 acceleration, 88 agility, 89 change of direction, but 84 speed. Certainly looks a lot faster when you're playing at Texas Tech, but the heart and the grit from Meeks cannot be denied. Injured on this play. Before he could throw a single pass in the first quarter. Knocked him out. He didn't play the rest of the first quarter. Didn't play the rest of the second. But came back in for the third and started making plays. through the air along with his legs. I can tell you, the injury while running did not stop him from running the football as he throws from sideline to sideline for the completion. He gets on the move routinely as he hits Baylor Cupp for the score. But it doesn't stop him, an injury, from continuing his aggressive play style. And now he is the newest Atlanta Falcon. Now, he's slower than Trey Lance with a similar arm. We'll see what he ends up being. It's worth a shot here at the end of the second round, I think. Trevor Lindsay from LSU. I talked about these LSU DBs. There were a billion of them. You know, you flip on the tape, you watch LSU play. Yeah, Joel Lawrence off the board first, but you're going to see a lot of them in a hurry, soon. Trevor Lindsay to the Eagles is the next one up. You might also see Travis Baptiste, the more traditional strong safety. So Lawrence played on the outside. Lindsay played over the top. And then occasionally you would see Travis Baptiste back there as well, but more of a thumper, a run-stopping, in-the-box safety. We'll see if a team takes a shot on him here in this draft. Would not be surprised if it were very soon. Larry Simpson of the Bills out of Southern Miss. Bengals take Angelo Chavez out of Michigan, defensive end. Chargers go with Josh Bean from Wisconsin. Just saw his quarterback go off the board. Josh Bean follows his quarterback not too far after. And let me tell you, this guy stinks. Oh my God. He absolutely sucks. He's just Big Ten football. You know, best case scenario, it's an 11-yard run. I'm not entirely impressed with Josh Bean, if I can level with you. I hate to hate on the Chargers draft pick here. Just seems a little mean. But I'll be mean to the Bean. Flick him if I have to. Eagles on the clock. Round 2, pick 25. They go Dale Donaldson from Ohio State. Left guard looking to bolster that O-line. Jeff Lang from Wisconsin. We saw a couple of his teammates go off the board. It's a Big Ten fest right now. Ravens at 27. Go with Matthew Ramsey, a tackle from UCLA. Cowboys, round 2, pick 28. Go Scotty Jarrett from Boise State. 49ers, round 2, pick 29. Go with a tackle. A.J. Williams from Florida State. That's their second offensive lineman they've drafted so far. The Chiefs take another tight end, Dominic Warner from Tennessee. Travis Kelce replacement, maybe? And then we are on the clock now. Round 2, pick 31. Let's see what we can do. Travis Baptiste, I talked about. 6'3", 207, a hit power. Not the fastest, but somebody might like him. Tevin Walker's an interesting one. 5'8", 187. But elite acceleration. I don't know what he is. Is he a slot guy? He says he's a deep threat, but he's 5'8". Is he just a deep threat? I guess he would be. Matt Jackson still available. Let's see here. This could be a potential reach for us. I think we're at this point in the draft. What do I like here? I mean, there are a lot of players. A lot of linebackers available that I still like. Could take a shot on a guard. Interesting. Great speed. Elite strength from Derek Johnston. A lead block, B pass block power, B run block. 6'6", 345, Derek Johnston. Now, we don't necessarily need a guard. Don't necessarily need one. Will Hart, day 3 center, agile type. We don't know a lot about him. He moves pretty well. A run block. Not super powerful. A couple good guards here. I think he might be very good. And I like how athletic he is. Might be a bit of a waste to take a guard at this point when it's just not a huge need. Could this be the Johnny Hamilton spot? Is it a reach at this point? I don't really care. I'm looking to take the best player available. One of the last picks of round 2. There are a lot of good safeties still available. I'm getting tempted by the safeties, obviously. But I think we will go Johnny Hamilton. It's too big of a need for us. And we are going to be bringing in, the biggest player I may have ever seen in the draft. 6'1". He's not the tallest man, but he makes up for it as being as wide as most people are tall. 382 pounds. Johnny Hamilton from Mizzou has elite acceleration, elite strength. You better at 382 pounds. A tackle, A power moves, A play rec, C block shed. He is an interesting player, if nothing else. Johnny Hamilton has 99 strength with 85 acceleration. He's not the fastest, because if you weighed 382 pounds, and some of you might, you probably wouldn't be moving very fast either. But he has 99 strength, which is something I have never seen in the draft before, ever, in Madden 24. Quite a replacement of Grady Jarrett. I'd hate to be in his way. Johnny Hamilton, our last pick of the second round. And the Colts will follow us up with Stephon Boston, brother of Dante Boston. Quite possible this one plays tackle and is headed to the Colts. Now to round 3, Texans, who open up the draft, pick again. And as I talked about it, we knew Travis Baptiste would not be too far away from his teammates. And sometimes he was. He was forced to make plays on an island. He's more of a box guy. He's not particularly quick, but he is able to run downhill and make plays on the ball carrier. You can see there's current Jacksonville Jaguar, Tank Bigsby, is not able to evade Travis Baptiste. Texans could have got a good one there. We'll see. Bucks end up going Rashard Moore, a D-tackle from Notre Dame. The Browns go with Colin Adams, a guard from A&M. Raiders go Tevin Walker. We talked about this guy. We talked about him. He's only 5'8", but one of the better receivers in this class. And scored some touchdowns for NC State despite small stature. Only 5'8", maybe 185 pounds. But you know what? It's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the... We don't talk about Fight Club. So actually, never mind. Scratch that. Broncos on the clock at number 5 here in the third round. They go David Kilgore from Oregon. We took an Oregon safety last year in Giants franchise Glenn Gore. This is David Kilgore. No relation. David Kilgore is an interesting player. You know, these safeties are all pretty comparable in my opinion. And, you know, it's tough to know how good these guys truly are when they all look not identical, but so comparable. As he plays underneath the crossing route there for the big interception. It's good value in the third round. I'll definitely give you that. As we get back to the Commanders, they've had a very good draft so far. And they might continue that. Got a big-time running back, and now they have somebody to clear the way. Derek Johnston from Oregon State was somebody that we looked at, and he looked really good. And there is another running back off the board. You know, you look at the Rams and you go, oh man, the Rams need everything. And the Rams go, what about a running back? And you go, don't do that. And they go, we've already done it. Walt Holmes is our draft pick. But he's a receiving back. So he's not just your typical hand it off, let him do his thing. He is a hybrid receiver. So whether or not it's a great pickup value-wise for the Rams as a running back, he offers incredible value also as a receiver. So, a lot there. Harvey Werner at Auburn goes to Pittsburgh. Cardinals go Derek Kellum from Clemson. Clemson, LSU, and Auburn had about 8 defensive backs each. in this draft. It's incredible that they were all on the field and draft eligible. So many different guys. I mean, it's typical of SEC programs. Clemson here is like the powerhouse of the ACC. But, I mean, he's all over the place making plays. Is he the best DB that Clemson's producing right in this draft? It's possible. There are a lot of incredibly comparable. We saw, Tyreek Westerman go a little bit earlier. Hello, Tommy. Falcons on the board here. Go with center Will Hart. That was our guy. That's why he was our draft pick. That was our pick. I went brain dead for a minute. I blacked out. Would that have been my pick at that spot? Yep, because it was. Got to roll with it now. What the? All right. He could be good. Well, we'll see, right? We'll see. We'll see. Now, that was our last pick of the draft. At least it didn't take, somebody I didn't want. We no longer have a need at center, for sure. Taking care of that. But there are some linebackers. I really would like at least one of these two linebackers, if I'm going to level with you, be honest. Trent Jackson out of Stanford wouldn't be bad either. Would not be bad. So I need more picks. That's where we are. I need more picks. Need more picks. Cam, thanks for the tier 1. Matt Jackson's not going to be a Falcon. That's fine. Tony Bailey not going to be a Falcon. Trent Jackson could be. There's Gardner. And there's Beeson. So we need picks at the back end of the third round, probably. We'll figure it out. There goes Dean Savage from Georgia. I told you, there are more safeties in this class than I could even imagine. Dean Savage has probably the best name of any of them. I mean, he is a big-time, big-hitting safety. And his last name, I mean, tells you all you need to know. Big player, big hitter. And maybe a new Legion of Boom is establishing itself in Seattle. Marlon Jefferson goes. Then it's Zach Woody from NC State. Another safety in a big safety draft class. Funnily enough, everyone gets on me for only drafting safeties. This was the safety draft class. I've drafted 0 of them. Just saying. Vikings end up going with Dimitri Winslow from Colorado. Jets go with the tight end Spencer Elliott from Texas. Eric Bolden out of Kansas State goes to the Panthers. Reggie Baker, Maryland, corners off the board next. Tony Beeson from Appalachian State. Not the Beeson I'm interested in drafting. There was Lucas Montague from Ohio State to the Packers. Another tight end, Walt Spitzer, as the Giants look to upgrade that offensive line. There goes Tony Bailey from Texas, one of the guards on my board. Jerry Crowder, the UCF center, is next. And this could be a trade-up spot. What do I have to trade? I do have future picks that I've acquired via trade downs. Right? I have 3 thirds next year. I want at least one more pick in this draft. So if anyone has 2 thirds, that'd be great. Or like a third and a high fourth or something like that. So 88 is an option from the Chargers. What do we do here? It might be It might be the Chargers is our best bet. They have 88. At least it gets us something. Ravens have 91 and 123. I'm not sure that's quite good enough. It could be, but it also just might be better to trade individually. Now, the Texans have 2 fourth-round picks. It's just, are the players I want going to be available when we get to both of those picks? That kind of becomes the question. And I mean, Matt Jackson's going to be off the board. But when you look, I mean, Trent Jackson's another player. Gardner, Beeson. I like both of those guys. They're 29 picks away. So with no comp picks, where are we in the draft? Basically right around 90. Not quite. I think we're at 87 picks in. So, yeah. It might be the Chargers. 88. It's just, I know they're going to ask for a lot. And I don't really know what I can trade at this point. I'm not going to trade the whole team. Who can I actually move? We got to not take the defensive tackle. It's going to be 2 linebackers. I don't really want to trade Troy Anderson. Caden Ellis is no value. The corners don't have any value. It's going to have to be picks. That's it. It's going to have to be picks. I would do a second-round pick next year. I really actually don't want to do that. I worry that with the Texans picks, we're going to miss out on our guys. We might just let one of them go off the board and then make the decision a little bit easier. So we know we're not taking the defensive tackle, but I would like one or both of the linebackers. Now, Devon Valentine was another guy I had on my board fairly high. He was somebody we definitely would have considered drafting. And I do also want to look at Dylan Stanley from Stanford, because he is another player I kind of forgot about. I don't know if I remember to put him on the draft board. I know, great GM. But he's someone who might be quite good as well. This is another, now I guess, defunct Pack linebacker. But let's take a quick look at Dylan Stanley. Just a quick look. Because he's 6'3", 245, with elite speed. Beat pursuit, beat tackle, beat zone coverage. There's something there. There's absolutely something there. Almost seems crazy not to draft him and trade up for the other guys. But these guys also look great. So, it's a tough call. Dante Gardner just looks really good to me. But so does Lamar Beeson. It's an incredibly tough call. It's a tough call. I think we're gonna keep going here. See what happens. Pats take Roy Turner. Ravens go with Matt Jackson from Ohio. This was a guy we knew at this point we were not going to be able to get, but in my opinion, certainly one of the top corners in the draft. Maybe a little bit underrated because he's only playing at Ohio, but he's got good size. Speed is not great, which you'd kind of expect playing at a smaller school here, but the coverage skills are pretty good. And Matt Jackson is somebody who I think is great value for the Ravens here at the end of the 3rd round. Cowboys go with Mason Kuhn, quarterback out of Appalachian State. Potential Dak Prescott replacement, more likely just a backup. There goes Terrell Blaylock, a corner from Colorado. And there goes Dante Gardner from UNC. Chiefs surprise us here. Take Gardner a little bit earlier than we were expecting. And I think they got a good one. Dante Gardner is someone that we have seen fly around the field for a really good UNC defense. And as expected, if we were to trade for the Texans' top 2 picks, we would have missed out. Gardner is off the board, and that is unfortunate because he was a player I definitely liked the look of. Really, really did. Giants go with Brian Walker, middle linebacker from Notre Dame. And the Colts, last pick of the 3rd round, go with Lamar Beeson from South Carolina. Wouldn't have made it to the Texans pick either. Last pick of the 3rd round is another linebacker I was quite interested in. 6'3", 240-something pounds, 249 maybe, and real solid speed. 23 years old, so a little bit older, but certainly somebody that's quite good. Now, our backup plan is a good backup plan. Dylan Stanley from Stanford. But Lamar Beeson, I think, would have been nice. Yeah, fun John Beeson storyline. Trent Jackson still available. I really do think Dylan Stanley's going to end up being a steal. And that's somebody we're not gonna let get past us. Let's see what the Texans want for this. And also their other pick. I'm interested in both. What do you want? Ooh. Tyler Algier. I like Tyler Algier too much. Can't do that. But what I can do, maybe, is give you a 3rd next year and the year after that. And that trade is accepted. It's a 3rd 2 years down the line, so it's less valuable. But I think we're about to have a pretty nice set of picks here. So round 4, pick 1. And I know it seems stupid when we don't trade up like 4 more spots ahead and then miss out on 2 players I wanted. But there's still more players that I want, right? So I think Trent Jackson should be the first one. He's higher on the board. 6'1", 299, maybe a little undersized for a defensive tackle. Very different from the 6'1", 380-pound defensive tackle we took. But he's got C block shed, A finesse moves, C power moves, C tackling. Ran 4.9 combine at his pro day. Is great speed, great acceleration and change of direction, and can actually rush the passer. So a nice 3rd defensive tackle to add to the mix. Trent Jackson is our first normal development player of the draft, but has good speed and strength and acceleration. And we know he's not necessarily going to have to start, but a good rotational actual pass rusher to add to the mix. Not sure we're going to get a ton of pass rush out of our 382-pound defensive tackle. But he does have A power moves, but the speed going to be a problem. Bucks go Felix Chamberlain, a middle linebacker from Miami. And our actual last pick of this draft is going to be a middle linebacker from Stanford, Dylan Stanley. 22 years old, 6'3", 245 with B tackle, B pursuit, B zone coverage, elite speed. Ran 4.44 at his pro day. Great acceleration and is an Atlanta Falcon. Only normal development, but 90 speed and 91 acceleration. Certainly something we can develop, and a really, really nice linebacker to add to the fold when we already have Deshaun Humphreys, Troy Anderson, and the linebacker we took earlier in the draft. So I know people are not going to like the normal dev. It's Madden. He's got 90 speed and 91 acceleration. That might as well be good enough for Superstar X Factor. And I think I'm done in this draft. You know, I typically have, picks on day 3. Didn't end up happening this time around. And I'm okay with that. We got really, really aggressive in this draft after being really, really passive in the last one. And, some people are going to like one way, some people are going to like another way. And I think overall, you have to be pretty happy with the talent that we added to our team, even if we did it in unconventional ways. So it's time to finally see what our crops are looking like, and we shall see the harvest here. And at first glance, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. It is very well rounded. We will start with our first pick, Dion Dobbins, who is a 76 overall. I think that's what I said for him, too. 76 power rusher and speed rusher, 74 run stop, 79 power moves, 78 finesse moves. We know already the athletic ratings. 75 block shed, bull rush trait, high motor. So maybe a bit more of a pass rusher or power rusher than a finesse guy. But that's not too bad. Quentin Drummond is a 74 overall with 94 speed, 98 acceleration, 91 spectacular catch. He has the possession catch, run after catch trait, fight for yards, but does not have the spectacular catch trait. Or aggressive catch, despite having 91 spectacular. Very interesting. Medium route running is terrible, but catching, not that bad at 75. Medium route running was an F, that's 65. Catching was a D, that's 75, I believe. Jason Carrington might be the biggest steal here. 76 overall. Man, end zone. He's a 6'4" corner with 93 speed, 76 man, 78 zone. Agility, acceleration, jumping, all great. Hit power is a 76. Already a very nice class coming together. Jose Carrington is probably the biggest reason why I didn't aggressively trade up for the other linebackers. Brother of Jason, took the brothers back-to-back. 75 pass coverage, 71 run stopper archetype, 87 speed, 90 acceleration, 80 tackle, 80 pursuit. Not much of a pass rusher, but he doesn't need to be. He's a real cover linebacker. 73 zone, 62 man, which is pretty good. Only 65 block shed, but is already in the top 18% of right outside linebackers. Jake Meeks, everyone wanted, is a 70 overall. 92 throw power, 78 deep, 75 mid, 82 short, 80 throw on the run, 78 break sack. Speed is a little bit less than what you'd want it to be when you're drafting a scrambler. He's going to need a bit of development, for sure. Without question, but a nice developmental piece. Johnny Hamilton from Mizzou is a 74 overall run stopper and power rush type. 6'1", 382. He's got 99 strength, 83 power moves, 68 block shed only, but great tackle, play rec, acceleration, hit power. Johnny Hamilton could be a special type of player. Swim move, bull rush, and high motor trait. Will Hart, who we drafted accidentally, kind of screwed everything up, is hidden dev. 85 strength, 78 run block, 73 pass block. Good lead block, great impact block, great acceleration and speed. That is a nice get for us. Trenton Jackson's a 73. We know only normal dev, but 81 finesse moves, 86 strength. Good traits. And then our last pick was Dylan Stanley, middle linebacker out of Stanford. 73 field general and run stopper type. That is a very high overall for a middle linebacker with exceptional speed, 85 hit power, 84 tackle, and coverage not awful, but certainly more of a user linebacker type. He is already a higher overall than Caden Ellis and Troy Anderson. So we had a lot of top picks, and I think we did pretty well. The highest overall player in the class was exactly who I expected it to be. It is generational running back David Wheaton. And I had a pretty good feeling he was going to be, with elite speed and all of his amazing attributes. He is an 87 overall with 80 break tackle, 97 speed, only 91 acceleration, which isn't terrible, just a little bit low for 97 speed. You're kind of surprised by that, but great long speed. 96 agility, 88 carrying, 99 juke, 85 spin. He has possession catch, run after catch, fight for yards. He can even catch the football, man. That is a very good player. Yeah, I think that might be the highest overall player I've seen in Madden 24. But we couldn't draft him, obviously. Mike Gray, very good left guard. Would be instant starter on a lot of teams. Already the number 10 left guard in the league. Was a second-round pick. Very, very good. Will Cox was an 80. I underrated him a bit. I didn't think he was going to be quite this good. I thought he was going to be good. I did not think he was going to be quite this good. 91 speed, 81 zone, 85 pursuit, 88 acceleration, 84 hit power. Will Cox. Yes to whatever question that is. He is unbelievably good. Another good guard. Larry Simpson from Southern Miss. How did I miss this guy? I saw him in the draft. Only normal dev, but a really high overall. Kind of looks like the corner we got, to be honest. This was a good draft class. One of the better ones I've probably seen, actually, and it didn't look like that way from the start. Cormier's is 79. Good speed, catching, acceleration. Nice, spectacular catch. He's already really good. Number 23 ranked tight end in the league right now. LeAnthony Sims is good. Felix Borden was a 78. Like, any of these players might be the highest overall in any other class. This is a stacked draft class. Only 277s. Tracy Peel's good. Like, Mitchell McCord is casually a 76 overall, and he's just a random tight end I didn't even notice. 89 speed. Really, really good. That is, I mean, and look at all these safeties. Javier Singleton's in there. This was a really, really good draft class. Again, one of the better ones I've probably ever seen. Even Tevin Walker's a 75. Timmy Dawson's a 75. There were so many amazing players in this class. Almost unbelievably. Yeah, I mean, pretty insane. Joshua Jackson's a 74. Did want to look at him. Dion Meredith is a 77. This class is just so good. Jason Staley was a 76. I mean, obviously you have some misses in here sprinkled in, but it's a lot of just really good players. Drew Foley, by the way, is only a 68 overall. Does have 99 throw power. I mean, this is an interesting draft class, to say the least. Wheaton was the fastest player in the whole class. Although we got some of the faster ones. Very interesting. So here we are after the video part of the live stream, and it was still live for this. I checked the undrafted free agent class, and this guy had the future starter role or tag on him. And lo and behold, he had that because he had superstar development. George Johnson from Clemson. Now, you look at his attributes here as a corner. He's not the fastest. His coverage isn't great. I would end up moving him back to safety. I don't know how much he's going to end up playing. We'll try to develop him, but a superstar UDFA is pretty awesome and a good way to end this video. Am I right? But that is our off season, guys. I'm going to spend the next however many minutes on stream customizing the rookies with the chat. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed a very eventful offseason. And I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.